Yes, we are live after a few technical difficulties figuring out the new setup. Thought I had everything figured out, but that's why it's better to test these things out in advance. Um, which I thought I had, everything set up and working on everything a-okay, but guess not. Um, let's start here in just a couple of minutes. Uh, Okie dokie. Okay, well, it's time to get started. Um, so, welcome to Pete's Tech Den show number 38. Is filmed on February 27th, not 27th, 26th, 2016. Here's where we talk about ways in which we can take old tech and reuse it in new ways and find new uses for it, rather than just throwing it away. And then also exploring cool ways and stuff that we can find to do cool things for cheap and then occasionally we'll have some episodes where we dive into some of like the moral issues that come along with technology, and those I found those shows to be really cool and insightful and um, just I mean kind of cool to think through some of those things. Um, but tonight we're gonna do kind of my first impressions of a Kickstarter that I backed. Um, and it was the Vidi action camera. Um, I guess going along, like my thoughts on action cameras, like when I look at like the GoPro kind of an idea, and I look at it and I was like, I've never been um, a big fan of the GoPro. Not that it's like a bad camera or anything like that, but um, when I look at an action camera, as someone who's I've done a decent amount of photography and you know, videography and stuff like that, especially in the camp environment. And I always looked at the action camera kind of as like, well, it's this camera that's designed for a single purpose, and it does that purpose very well. But for a camera that's going to cost me, $500, I want to be able to do more with that camera than just just those action camera action sequences and stuff. Um, and it's not useful. It's not gonna be. It's gonna be harder to use it for other things. Besides those, just because you get into some of the because of the wide angle lens, you get a little bit of distortion that way and that kind of stuff. And it's just not always, especially when it comes to like still pictures and stuff. It's not always the best quality wise. And so I kind of always, I was like, oh well, those are nice, but nothing I'm ever gonna buy. Until I was just browsing out on Kickstarter and came across the Vidi action camera. And so tonight, just looking at the first kind of impressions of that, um, the thing that kind of struck me was they, like, I mean, they were basically in a lot of their promotion stuff just going head to head, comparisons against the GoPro because, kind of the GoPro is kind of the standard of the action camera market. Um, and so, but the big thing for me that made a big difference was, um, I found it when I got the last early bird, like the very last early bird pricing. So I got mine for I think it was I think it was like 89.99. Um, basically $90. And I was like, well, $90. That's a little bit different than throwing away $500 on an action camera. And with one that's trying to do something that's super high quality and stuff like that. Um, so I've used this a little bit. This is kind of that's why this is first impressions, not that just because one thing I wasn't thinking, like when I because I got it in February. Some of the things like I wanted to do, um, like I mean, getting outside and everything. It's just been super cold and you know outside, and so haven't had a whole lot of times to use it. But um, I took it with me when I actually went to a Chick-fil-A grand opening. Um, so it survived the night cold. Got down to basically 33 with like a negative or wind chill brought it down to about 24, the coldest. So um, it survived that. So um, just kind of the screen on the back is, I mean, it's nothing spectacular. Um, but yeah, I found it pretty, I mean, not all of the controls are maybe the most intuitive, I would think. I mean, but without looking at the instruction, piece of paper, which they include in the thing, which I don't know if you can see that. Um, Clearly tells you what all the buttons do. I mean, they, um, without looking at that, because I guess I'm not one to look at the instructions usually until I'm absolutely, without a doubt, stumped on something. I just like to pick it up and go with it, explore, figure out what it can do. Um, it's I mean, it's not terrible, but yeah, still pretty easy. Um, it's kind of nice because one thing I like, something like my more expensive camera cannot do is time lapse. A lot of times you have to buy some kind of extra accessory to do that. But this thing can do time lapse, and it's really nice because um, you know basically to change like what kind of video you want to do with it. You basically press, you have to go to the settings. And this is where, I guess for me, coming from like a normal camera, like in some ways it's like, well, the UI is a little bit clunky in this way, just because, you have to go into the settings to change, and some of these things where it's like, a lot of times on your normal camera, I guess, because for me, this is my first action camera, you could press, one button and you're to there, to the settings, to like, if you want to do time lapse, granted my other one doesn't, but if it did, a lot of the settings, like for like a timer, you can push one button and then you're cycling through, which on this one, you're like one press of the button. I wish there was a better way to show you this. One press of the button there, and then, oops, I clicked the wrong one. Okay, one press the button to bring up the menu, another press to cycle through. So you're clicking through there, you get to the settings, and then now that top one is actually the movie settings. And then so I'm cycling through. Make sure the video settings. There. It's a little bit difficult to remember thinking that the controls on the top of the camera are flipped when you're looking at it backwards. And then you're cycling through 1, 2, and then 3. Sorry. And then there, now you're to the, so, but, I mean, in some ways it's kind of like, well, it's, you only have so many buttons on this thing to allow you to do this. But, yeah, that's, and this is what makes it waterproof. Which I will say, I did try that out, and it does work. Which is, a good thing, because an action camera is like worthless if you can't make it waterproof. The one thing that I found out through some testing is that obviously when you put the waterproof case on, yeah, you get no audio on the video. It's very muffled. And most of the audio is actually the stuff like banging on the case. But the audio is okay when the case is off. Not great. But yeah, I actually took to test the waterproof. I actually just filled up my sink and dunked it in there, in the bathroom sink. So it's nothing too rough with it yet. I'm really pumped because um, for when the summer comes and I can get my bike back out and think about maybe I want to try some riding around with this guy, which is the um, it's like a bar mount, I think is what they called it. Um, but yeah, because this is gonna be tight that down, and so just because I'll be able to get outside more, I'll be able to do some more testing more using it. Because basically with the Kickstarter, because we hit, I think it was like 1.5 million. We got these couple extra mounts, which I believe they're like an extra like $15 a piece, if I remember correctly. Um, just pull our website out here in just a minute. Um, but yeah, this guy is it's a sticky mount. There's basically like a sticky pad that you stick to the bottom of this, and then you can stick that somewhere. I found it also like because the bottom of the mount is fairly flat. It's also kind of a nice way to like if we were to because you can like you spin that on, and then you can just kind of which if I can just you can see there. Sorry, this camera's not quite as good. But yeah, so could act as just like a nice little stand. That might be what I use it for. But I I've been putting off trying to decide where exactly I want to use the sticky mount, just because, you know, once you put it somewhere, it's kind of there. Um, but yeah, there may be other uses for it. But yeah, and these are both an extra $15. I just got them because we raised enough money. Because basically what comes in the thing is this. It comes fully charged, which is really cool, with 4 gig SD card. It's a class 6, which, I don't know, I kind of expected that they would put a class 4 in there just because but class 6, it's a little bit better, and that's kind of nice that they put that in there for us. The other thing we get is one of these nice little selfie sticks. They have like two versions of the selfie stick. This is basically the cheaper one. And then they have a premium pole, which costs you like $40. This guy costs 10, but you get one with every camera. It's not bad. I mean, when you put the camera on it, once you've tightened it on, like, it's always gonna be able to do this. I mean, once you have it on there, like, you can see, like, actually, I don't think actually, I do. Maybe I don't. There we go. Like, it jiggles a little bit. I tried it a little bit, but I'm just not a selfie person, so. But yeah, so I mean, it's a decent, decent camera. Let's see. Trying to think through what I should have. One thing that I guess something I think it's a fairly um it's a fairly a feature that doesn't really like stick out. Like when I hold it up here, you can't tell. There's nothing to say, the feature, but a feature that I don't know, I think is pretty big. It's the fact that unlike most action cameras, this one will float in water. So, if you were to, drop it while you're out on the lake, the likelihood that you're going to find this compared to, um, the GoPro is you have like zero chance of ever finding that GoPro. You have, I feel like you got a pretty good chance of finding this thing if you lose it. And that's a pretty important feature, especially when you're spending a lot of money on something. Granted, on this guy, you're only spending 100, so you could go through 5 of these, and still be, and for every one GoPro. So it's one of the things I found, like, you know, I guess for me, like the most compelling parts of it was like, and I came across it was like, wow, an action camera. It's I at least from the videos they showed and stuff, looked like it was fairly well competing with the GoPro in the terms of quality and stuff. Um, but for a lot cheaper, which is kind of the thing on the show is trying to find things. A couple of things that like I was kind of hoping for, which actually in their like backer survey, you can actually fill out to do like a phone survey with them, which I was like, yes, I want to. And I would really like one of the things that the GoPro they just like added recently was the ability to connect to it like through like I think it's like through like an app on your phone or something like that, to where you could live stream from the GoPro. I feel like it was using like Periscope or Meerkat or something like that. It was where you were live streaming to some other like other live using some other live streaming service. And so I guess the things I was hoping for was that you'd either be able to do that or maybe even better through like the USB port, like be able to connect it into something else, and then use it like as like a like a USB camera kind of a thing. Kind of thinking through like maybe pairing it with something like a Raspberry Pi or like a Pine 64 or something like that would be kind of interesting. But my survey they asked me about things that like I would want. I know, like things that weren't there that I'd be interested in and that kind of stuff, and how I'd use and that kind of stuff. So I kind of gave that to them and hoping. And the wireless thing probably isn't gonna happen. They might bring that in V2, because this thing doesn't have any wireless chips. One thing I did notice, like USB when you connected it into your computer, this is something I kind of liked. A lot of times when you plug, a camera into the computer, when you go into the file structure and you start looking for the photos or videos or whatever, if you go about it that way rather than while they're bringing it in by like a program like like iPhoto or Windows Media Player. I think is what it is on the Windows. I haven't used that in a while. But you usually get into some fairly confusing file structures, and a lot of times, you end up finding like the photos in um, like a DCIM or something like that. Um, this one makes it, I mean, you plug it in and you pull it up, and you basically see there's one folder. You click on that folder, you go into that folder, and then inside that there are two folders. One is labeled videos, the other one is labeled photos. I think it's videos or movies. I forget which. It's one of those where, but it's very clear, boom, and that's where your videos and your, you know, photos are. And it's not like something that's like gonna make or break whether I buy something, but from, just being able to use it and stuff, that's very nice not to have to go hunting through any of the kind of weird file formats, or whether it's broken down into a bunch of folders. It's just all right there, boom, done, and you move on. But yeah, because it just connects it, and it just shows up as basically as a external storage, kind of like a USB thumb drive kind of an idea. So that's kind of nice. I like that a lot. But yeah, I think that's kind of my first impressions. It seems like a fairly nice, from the messing around I've done with it. I felt like once I got stuff switched over to, once you switch the settings to turn on the time lapse, then you do it and it takes off and does it real well. Let me see. I can just pull up. Just show you. Let me see. Pull up. What the? I don't know why that's not showing up the way it should. Wow, well, that's not showing up. So, I don't know why that doesn't show up. Well, I'll post some of the videos out in the show notes. But yeah, the movies, you're shooting in 1080p, kind of your standard stuff. Let me just jump over here and show you this is the camera specs. But yeah, 1080p, 30 frames per second. It's got a pretty nice widescreen lens, and it's waterproof up to 40 feet. That's kind of and the images you're talking about, 12 megapixels. Kind of pretty basic stuff. One thing that I'll probably have better able to test, like, will be once I use it more this summer, will be battery life. Like right now it's still like I'm still using it on the charge that it came with. So I mean, I haven't used it a ton. I filmed a few videos, taken a few pictures and stuff. Um, but yeah, it was really nice. Will say, like, when I took it with me to Chick-fil-A, like, it was kind of nice for something like that where I was going to be camping out overnight, and you're talking about being out in the weather and extreme temperatures and that kind of stuff. Um, that I had a camera I could take with me and not have to worry about, like, what was gonna happen to it, whether, because the ground was wet, and moisture and all that kind of stuff. Plenty of that around, plenty of cold. You got I got fairly warm when the sun was out. So it was nice to have something like that where I could just take it and throw it in my bag and not have to worry about, like, the fact that I set my bag down on the ground and it got the bottom of it soaked right where the camera was. A lot of other cameras, you would have been really worried at that point. But yeah, that's my initial impressions of the video camera. Um, I think it's good. Um, I think I would definitely buy again. Um, right now, since Kickstarter's over and stuff, like, they're like $100. So yeah, I was like, I looked at it. I mean, when I first looked at it as at the Kickstarter, like, all of the um, early bird pricing wasn't there, and I was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, well, I'll think about it, because it wasn't kind of that, well, I gotta go get it right now, because I could always, without the early bird pricing, it was going to be $100, and you're like, well, I don't know. I can think about this. Wait, I can always get it after. Um, but I was like, later I went back and looked, and there was one spot had opened up in the early bird pricing. I guess someone must have canceled. I don't know. Um, and I was like, boom, done, getting it. Um, plus, we're supposed to said it was supposed to come by Christmas, and it was super nice because, like, mine came, like, I think it's the day after Christmas, so, like, one day late. And because they didn't meet their goal, like, they gave us a $15 kind of coupon for, or gift card, basically gift card for their um, store on their website. So I'm probably gonna. I still keep looking and trying to think through, like, which, because then I could get, like, another mount of some sort. I think I thought about getting, like, the head mount, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to decide between, like, a head mount or a chest mount, or I keep looking because for a while they had, like, it was like a shoulder mount to mount on your shoulder, which I thought would be kind of interesting. Um, but I haven't seen it, hasn't been up there recently. Plus, I wasn't sure whether I'd get that one just because that one was $30. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to lots more fun putting this thing to the test, and seeing what all it can do, and I think it's a good buy. But yeah, so that's all for tonight. Um, got some projects I'm working on. So hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff to talk about and kind of get back on a regular schedule. Kind of away, gotten away from the schedule just because I've been having problems with my Mac, which is why I'm not doing it on my Mac, which you probably couldn't tell. And so hadn't had. I mean, I was like, I could have done it with this camera, but Yeah, it looks pretty terrible. Uh, but I picked up was Logitech C920, which is super nice, super nice camera. But yeah, I picked it up on eBay for I found it for $55. So I was pretty happy with that. Um, normally they kind of range in how much you're gonna see them. Most of the time you can find them down in like the 60s. So it was a little bit cheaper, not quite, but it was still brand new. It was still in its original packing. You know, these guys still had the tape seals and stuff like that on it. So I'm happy with it. But yeah, so yeah, this week's episode was the first episode. No, not the first. It's true. I have done one or two other ones, but on a Linux box. So that will be a topic for a future episode. We'll be talking about. Um, but yeah, that's all for tonight. So I will see you next week as we continue to explore new ways to stretch our dollar as we continue to do cool things with technology.